guys, how are you? All right, well, happy Wednesday. If I'm showing up on your live feed and you're seeing everything pop up, sorry, I'm just looking at myself for the first time, then I know it's Wednesday. I know it's a little off from my normal live day, but obviously tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Oh my God. When technology fails you, everybody. All right, let's try to get that back together here. Well, at least some of you will enjoy watching that and getting a good laugh in at the beginning of that video. So in that case, you're welcome. So today we're going to be cooking our pumpkin pie. I'm so excited. If you've seen any of my other videos, what's really important to know is that I am not a chef. This is not my line of work. However, I am a health coach and a health conscious person who wants to have healthy versions of things that I love. And pumpkin pie happens to be one of my favorite dishes, maybe of all time, but definitely my favorite dessert. And even for my birthday, my husband every year tries to get me a pumpkin pie for my birthday. So it's like a thing. So I'm kind of particular about how mine tastes and how good it is and all of that. So, and then of course, on top of all of that, I also want to make sure that whatever I'm making is the easiest version of it so that I can make it quick, because I do not like spending hours in the kitchen, okay? I think that if you watch any of my previous videos, you will know that that is a truth. So this is no different. However, we are going to piece together the entire pie, including the whipped topping that we're going to put on the top. So let's just get started, because we're going to want to start with the pie crust. And I think I hit everything. Pumpkin pie is a very staple Thanksgiving dessert, and also, you know, I'll kind of go through some of the health benefits so that when you're eating your pumpkin pie, you also understand that you have nothing to feel guilty about while you're there. Really important note is the recipe today is a gluten-free recipe and also a dairy-free recipe. So for any of you that are lactose intolerant or have celiac disease or anything, this will help. See, it doesn't matter what I do, I always start and realize that there's something in my shot that I don't want to have there. Yep, see, I told you I'm not professional. All right, so let's start with cooking our pie crust. So essentially this, it does take a little longer to cook this pie, so I'm not gonna let it cook this entire episode. So, but there's a couple setup steps that I think are really important, and I thought we should do that together. So let's start with our pie crust. So our pie crust is gonna have almond flour in it. So you probably saw that in the description of what we're using. Almond flour is literally just almonds ground up into flour-like size, so that little tiny flour, small particle size. You can replace this with coconut flour. You could replace it with tapioca flour. There's a bunch of different flours out there that are non-gluten. You could even replace it with regular good old gluten flour if you want to. But the nice thing about almond flour is it's going to be less calories than your normal gluten, and you're not going to get all those side effects that we get from processed gluten, which a lot of the time means you're going to feel bloated or you know, and also just, you know, natural weight gain and insulin production. So because this has no gluten in it and it's just almond, it's a, you know, a fat-based and protein-based nut, then you're not going to get that insulin spike that you would normally get with flour. So there you go. That's why it's good. And you can barely tell the difference. All right. That's the most important one, really. So we're going to just pour that in. Okay, real quick. I know this is a side note, but one thing I preach a lot, and you'll see it on my sites, that you want to be set up for success. Get the things that are going to be the easiest for you to handle or use. And I found this on Amazon, and I just think it's awesome. It's a measuring cup, and it's for wet and dry items. And so you could put like honey in there. I'm not going to put the honey in it today, but you could use honey and you just slide it out and you can dump everything. It's amazing. It makes everything easier. Get one. I don't like sponsor them or anything. I'm not making any money off it. I just love it. Okay? Maybe I should. Maybe that's my next step, is I should start getting sponsored. So you're gonna put in your almond flour first. Next thing we're gonna put in is just a little teaspoon of salt. Ooh, this is another cooking utensil that I love. It's literally just a measuring cup, but instead of having 17 little pieces all over the place, you literally just measure it out. It's actually on the device itself, and you just move this depending on how many. I know. Listen. If you have a better way, I'm all for hearing about it. So never be afraid to to message me if you're like, no, I have a better one, please. So you're gonna go for half a teaspoon of salt. So happy Thanksgiving, by the way. A little bit of salt in there, you're just gonna throw it on in. The great thing, I just mix everything. Sometimes I get picky about like, you gotta pre-mix it or pre-do this or do that. I just literally toss it all in the bowl and we're gonna just mix it, okay? So there's your salt. We're gonna add in, so what I did is I'm using ghee for my butter today. But again, and you could use coconut oil, you could use regular butter, but that would be a dairy product. So ghee would keep it non-dairy. And I just pre-melted it so that I could easily scoop it into 2 tablespoons here. And I just add it into the mixture. Now here's a little like lovely piece of information that's gonna be very helpful later on as we're starting to put the pie crust on the pie tin. You wanna make sure that there's a little bit of extra butter in your bowl because you're gonna need it for your fingertips. Otherwise, this is going to be really sticky as you're trying to stick it onto your pan. So keep that in mind, have that off to the side in case you need it. And we're also going to add in 1 egg. So we're just going to slap it in. Oh, and then last thing for the pie crust is we're going to add some maple syrup. So you could do just 1. This is literally just to kind of add a little bit of sweetness to your bowl. Maple syrup's great. It's a nice substitute for sweetness, so you don't have to actually use sugar. And it also helps to kind of solidify and keep everything together. So it has a lot of good uses. I am going to put in 2, just going to use my butter on. I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons, but if you're don't like things as sweet, you know, sometimes people who like pumpkin pie, we don't always like things to be super sweet. So maybe you don't want to add 2 tablespoons, and that's fine. You're not going to ruin anything if you just put in 1. And then from there, I'm just going to use a regular spoon, and I'm just going to mix all the ingredients together. So what's going to happen here is everything's going to get real chunky, and that's going to be kind of the first step. But you want to make sure that it's all mixed. So when you're looking down into your bowl, you want to make sure that you don't have, oh God, I'm like knocking things out of the bowl. Yep, I'm really good at this. You want to make sure that you are mixing well and that all of the almond flour gets like included into the chunky mixture. That's essentially it. You know, and you want everything to be evenly you know, mixed in, but it doesn't have to be super perfect because we're about to just kind of rub it into the pie tin. So this is really kind of like the most time-consuming part of making pumpkin pie, of making the crust at least of pumpkin pie. Just because, you know, between this and then trying to stick it into the pan, you know, it's just a little bit more difficult, but it's okay. It's gonna taste good, and it's gonna be, you know, the nice thing about what we're doing is you're creating an environment that, like, you know, you can feel a little guilt-free about what you're eating because you're making better choices for it. So, okay, so I have it all mixed in, and you can kind of see it's just like really chunky at the bottom of the bowl. And I bought just a regular pie tin from the store. Super cheap and easy, but, and these are actually nice because they're usually non-stick. You don't have to pre-spray them. But if you're using a glass pie tin or a container, you want to put a little bit of olive oil or something or spray on before you put this on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just literally going to plop this into the middle of my pan, and then we're just going to spread it out and put it all over the pan. Now, I'm just going to be honest. There's no like particularly beautiful way to do this. Make sure your hands are washed. COVID, just wash your hands all the time. But that's when that butter nearby is going to be really helpful. So you're just going to reach over, grab your ghee or your oil, whatever you used for your, you know, for your mix, and you're just going to get your fingertips just a little bit buttery and start pushing into the pie. I promise you, if you don't put the oil on your fingers, you are going to be like sticky fingers with a bunch of pie stuff all over it. So this is going to help make that pie, make the crust just kind of push out easy. And again, guys, I can't stress it enough. I'm all about easy. I am not, you know, and my husband will tell you, I'm not a chef. I don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen, but I do think it's important to, you know, make healthy choices. And when you're making healthy choices, you want to keep dipping your, you know, hands in the butter to like keep moving the mixture out. Then, you know, it means you have to spend time in the kitchen. That's just what it means. It means that if you want to eat a healthy food and you want to stay and kind of live a clean eating lifestyle, you are going to have to make some food. So you got to start finding things that are worth it for you, you know? And then you get in the kitchen and you do what you can. Okay, so guys, again, I'm not an artist. I know some people are out there like, oh my God, I can't watch her do this pie. But like I said, this is the hardest part of the the whole thing, just because you got to push it out. You want to make sure that the mixture is going evenly throughout the pie tin. Okay, so again, this is where that butter is going to help, because you can kind of, once you put butter on your finger, you'll be able to kind of push through it a little bit, and then even it out. So, I don't know about you guys, but when I have pumpkin pie, sometimes I don't even want to eat the crust. I don't know if you're like that. You should comment below if you're the kind of person that doesn't even like eat the crust. But it is nice to have there for a few bites, and it's also a nice way to hold the thing in. But I have kind of like a bonus thing for you during this cookout today, so stay tuned, because it's a little bit of a bonus thing that you can do as well if you're one of those people like me that doesn't even necessarily like the crust. So when it comes to pushing it, what I do is I try to take almost all the mixture, push it out towards the sides, because you can always spread it onto the edge of the pan, which, you know, you'll want to do anyway, because it's supposed to look like a real pie. You're going to make sure that, you know, it looks like a pie. So, knocking things over. So yeah, so I just literally push it out from the center, press it, and then as I get to the edge, I kind of push my finger into the corner, because you want your pie to have depth. If you don't do this, you're gonna find that you have a lot of pie crust and not so much of the pumpkin. And let's face it, we're really in this thing for the pumpkin, right? Maybe not. If you're a crust person, then I say you just leave it like this and you make a crust for all right, so for Thanksgiving. So almost done here. I'm gonna push this a little bit more. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna actually stick this pie into the oven. Now, God, I do this every time, don't I? You want your oven to be preheated at 350 every single time. See? I need a producer. Who's out there wants to produce a cooking show. Pushing in here, we're going to be putting this in the oven. It's going to be at 350 right now. So if you didn't already start your oven up, start it up now, 350. And then we're just going to let this pie crust cook a little bit. Now, if you want to get all artsy and stuff, and you want to put little like ridges on your crust, you don't know how many people you're entertaining for. I am not entertaining for anyone this year. I'm just eating this myself. So I am not going to spend a million years, but you're going to want a fork anyway. So have a fork nearby. You know, if you see a pie in the store, you're going to see like the little ridges. You can actually just make that with your fork. You can just go through, make the little ridges on the edge of the pie. You know, if you're trying to be fancy schmancy, that's yeah. And you might want to get your fork, put a little butter on it again. Otherwise, everything's going to get really sticky because that maple syrup is there. See, I'm not gonna see. Mama's not. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so you got that on there, and then the other thing I would do before you stick this in the oven, give yourself just a couple little fork jabs right here in the center. So what's going to happen is when it heats up and it starts to kind of cook this together because of the egg, it's going to start to lift up a little bit of air bubbles. So maybe 2 or 3, or I did 5 little jabs with the fork will help kind of let some air pass through. So here we are, we have everything ready, and all we're going to do is put this in the oven for 10 minutes. And while we're doing that, we're going to get the rest of it together. So put it in 350. I'm going to put on the timer because God knows I've made that mistake a few times. You don't want to overcook it. You just want to put it in for 10 minutes, make it so it's just a little bit more solid, especially on the bottom. Because once you put the rest of the filling in, it's going to be harder for the bottom of the pan to cook. So we're just kind of speeding up that process. All right, so let's cook the filling. I'm going to actually wash my hands because they're all sticky now. All right, here we go. So, I was going to say a side note. There are lots of other different types of syrups too. So I know I used maple syrup for that last batch, and I'm about to use honey. But I also found this awesome thing at Sprouts the other day, and it's just date syrup. It's exactly, consistency, it's going to be very similar. And if honey and maple they're like, I don't like the taste of those. There are other options out there that are still clean eating options. Now, listen guys, the meal we're making today is not a low-calorie meal. Okay, that should be really, really big, bold letters said. It's not a low-calorie meal, but by making better choices and picking the right stuff, you are making like better health choices, and you're going to get more nutrients from what you're eating. All right, so let's make our filling. So we're going to need 1 can of pumpkin. Hello, this is Sprouts brand. Thank you, Sprouts. And you're just gonna, again, I'm all about just throwing things in the bowl. So you're just gonna scoop out the entire can into your bowl. So pumpkin is awesome, you guys. Pumpkin is high fiber, which is awesome. It has high potassium, a lot of vitamin C. It is very, I mean, put it in your breakfast shakes. I mean, there's a lot of really great ways to use pumpkin, and it's very beneficial. It helps to reduce blood sugar levels. I mean, there's a lot of great benefits from pumpkin. So pumpkin pie can offer a lot more than just a savory, sweet, you know, type of treat as well. So we're gonna do that first. Now I'm gonna take this and we're gonna add some coconut milk. So you don't want to buy the coconut milk that's in the refrigerator aisle, that's in a container that you put, you know, that's already made. You want to buy the can of coconut milk. Can of coconut milk, and then this one can be room temperature for the filling. So when you open it up, just make sure you mix it around a little bit, or shake it before you open it up. But just know it's going to be very milky. This is also a can you would use if you want to make your own coconut milk. You could just mix this can with water and have coconut milk at home. That's great. For today's purpose, we're just going to pour it in 1/3 cup, and we're just going to pour that in to our mixture. Since I already have this, I'm going to do our honey as well. So honey, I bought just, again, Sprouts. I'm a Sprouts shopper. And the honey is the sweetener, guys. So this, you know, 1/3 cup of honey. Again, you could substitute other sorts of syrup sweeteners, because it's also going to help kind of keep the whole thing together, though the eggs are the real glue that keeps your food together as you're cooking it. Great, so we're going to add that, and then we're going to add, I know I'm like looking at my cheat sheet because I was kind of playing with this before, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't like get anything wrong for you guys. So now we're going to add our spices. So this is going to be 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So this is what makes pumpkin pie, is the spices that are just so yummy. Also cinnamon, also great way to regulate blood sugar. Cinnamon's an amazing seasoning in general. So we're gonna do a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then we're gonna do a teaspoon of pumpkin spice. Now pumpkin spice has cinnamon in it, but it also has ginger, cloves, and nutmeg as well. But you know, cinnamon's that, oh my God, you guys, having issues right here. Okay, all right, yeah, okay, that just happened. See, not really, I mean, how embarrassing. Like if this was a cooking show, like they would cut that, absolutely. And then, or have it, you know what they would do? They would have it pre-sectioned out. That's what I should do, pre-section out. All right, so you got your seasonings in there. Now we're gonna add in, I'm just gonna use my handy little, now because I'm still using this, like even though there's still stuff on it, like why not? You're gonna just add in more of the good stuff into your food. So now we're gonna use vanilla, and you want 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I almost put in 2 tablespoons, you like that? 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and that's also gonna be a helpful sweetener for what you're having. We are going to, I think I got everything. I did. All right, cool. So now last thing, again, the glue that kind of holds it all together, we have our eggs. So we're gonna knock our eggs in. We got 3 eggs we're adding into this. So this is really easy. Sometimes cake mixes are really hard to mix up, and this is not, because pie filling, you know, is so soft. So we're gonna just add that in, and then we're gonna use our handy mixer, and we're just gonna mix this thing up. So this is really easy to kind of whisk together, but if you have, those like handy electronic, hi, how are you? You have those, handy electronic whiskers, why not? Just pull it out. It's that time of year, right? It's the time to use it. Now if you're doing it right and you have everything in the correct, amount, your pumpkin is gonna be really soft, and it's gonna almost feel like, how is that gonna become anything that's gonna harden up even a little bit? But just mix it really, really well. So here's what I'll tell you about this recipe. You will most likely have extra pie filling, which is awesome because I have another great idea. I know sometimes, like I said before, not everybody loves the pie crust on pie, so they'll just kind of scoop it out or leave it off to the side. Well, what I like to do is add the extra pie filling that I have, and I like to make on the side some extra little tiny pie, crustless pie muffins. So I buy these from the store. Again, this is a really kind of like economical way to buy the cupcake holders. This is silicone, so this is just reusable. I can wash it. And so what I'll do is I'll usually make 6, but right now I'm just gonna do 4. And I'll usually do some with just the pie filling cooked up. And then when you bring it out for dinner, you could just literally bring those out and put a little bit of whipped cream on top of it, and you got people's dessert right there. The other thing that I love doing is keeping the same mixture, but then I also will take some oats and I will add some oats into the mixture so that I can make like a pumpkin muffin. And then I have those for a few days as well, and they're really easy to store. You might as well, you know, since you're going through all the trouble, you might as well make some stuff that's gonna last. Also, if you're just not a pie fan, you could do this with the entire filling mixture and just skip the pie crust. I mean, there's lots of options, and then everyone has a neat little sectioned off, calories sectioned, you know, dessert, right? So, great, still got about 2 minutes. So, again, you wanna make sure that this is nice and mixed. I think one of the biggest important things to know is that, you know, when you're, the great thing about choosing desserts that have kind of different types of sweeteners in them is really understanding the difference between what you're really enjoying in what you're eating and what's really happening to your tongue and your reaction to what you're eating. So obviously we all think to ourselves, oh, I just really love sugar. You know, it's Thanksgiving, I'm gonna have all the sugar I want. But the reality is when your body tastes sugar, it's not the sugar itself, but the sweetness. Your body's reacting to the flavor of sweet, right? So when you're substituting things that your body can digest better, like maple syrup and honey and date syrup, these things that are derived from natural sources, you're still gonna just taste sweet. But what you're doing is you're also giving yourself more nutrients to enjoy. You are giving yourself, at times, a little bit less calories. And more than that, you're getting something that's not processed. Processed foods, I mean, it is just the destruction of our society has to do a lot to do with processed foods. So keeping everything as natural as possible is always going to be the most important thing that you could possibly do. So here we go. We have our mixture and it smells good. I could just chug it right here. I'm not going to because I'm a lady. All right. So we're gonna pull out our pie crust, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna pull it out and we're just going to pour it in. Let me just show you what this looks like without burning myself. So the pie crust has started to like get a little bit harder, so it's not like super hard, it's still a little mushy, but you can feel it when you bring it out. It's gonna feel a little textured, a little grainy. And that's good. That's exactly where you want it to be. Now the real question is gonna be, you know, how much pie filling do you wanna put in there? You know, if you're gonna make those side muffins, you don't need to overfill your pie to make it all happen. So let me go ahead and we'll pour some of our pie in, the filler in. And you know, you really don't wanna overfill it, though it's not like cake where it's going to, if you fill it up too much, it's gonna it's gonna start to come out the sides. So you really just kind of want to fill it up until it's kind of touching. Oh, I can do a little bit more. How about that? Until it's kind of touching the side, and then I actually go through and I just kind of spread it out a little bit, just so that it's a little flatter and not kind of pooling, because it's still going to be pretty thick. Let me just kind of show you. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna be putting the pie back in the oven for 50 minutes. Now, the biggest thing to be careful of, and I'm gonna try not to spill it in front of you guys right now, is not to spill the pie, because obviously it's gonna look very liquidy, is what you're putting it in, so you can see it kind of jiggles. So you wanna make sure that you're just very careful when you're inserting it back in, that you don't tip it over, and you keep it pretty flat. But 50 minutes is gonna be the name of the game here, so we're gonna slide it back in carefully. All right. So I'm gonna put the timer on. Let's see, timer, 50 minutes. All right, so as we're getting that going, like I said before, what I like to do is take the excess, because I have excess, and I'm gonna make little tiny, like pumpkin cupcakes, if you will. So what I do is I make one, I'm gonna do another one, and what's nice about this is you can really control how much you're using. And then what I do is I'll save a little bit of this extra, and then I add my oats for my pumpkin muffins, which, you know, oh, jeez, like, so I usually add about 1/8 cup of the oats, so it's not over the top. More there. And then I mix it in the bowl before I put it into the muffin tins. And so this way you're getting a positive, good carb, and you're getting the protein that's provided from that and the fiber that's provided from the pumpkin. And here we go. We're just gonna, I might not pour this in right. And let's put it in. Great. And like I said, because pumpkin, this substance isn't really going to rise, which I know sometimes when we're making cupcakes, it's like if you overfill the tin, you're going to get like a cupcake that's like takes up the entire, container. But this one, you don't have to worry about it. What I will say though is right now I got a little bit of pumpkin on the side of the tin. You want to try to get that up before you put it into the oven, because otherwise you are going to get a burning smell, and you don't want that. You want to enjoy every smell that's about to happen. So here we go. I have my cupcakes done as well. I have 2 of the oat ones and then 2 regular ones, which is nice, especially if you're trying to be health conscious as you're going in. You're not going to be tempted to, make a decision you shouldn't. So there we go. I mean, that's really it, you guys. Then it's 50 minutes in the oven. You're still at 350. Wearing a turtleneck cooking. See, I need someone to tell me what to do. 50 minutes in the oven, and then when you pull it out, you just let it cool. All right. So this is something that you can make more in the, the day before, or you could even, if you want the smell, because right now just the smell in the house, it just smells good. People come into the smell of pie. So because pumpkin pie is really just easy to sit there on the counter, it's a really easy thing to just kind of leave out, let the smell happen. All right. So the last layer, and this is an important layer because this is what and most people like pumpkin pie just so they can put whipped cream on it, right? So this is a dairy-free alternative, and honestly, I love it more than dairy-free options. Let's talk about this real quick because, you obviously have your Cool Whip options out there, which typically are gonna be less calories, but they're going to be using processed ingredients and using a lot of processed sugars and sweeteners to make it taste sweet. Now you might say, okay, well, so why wouldn't I do that, a less calorie option, opposed to doing a higher calorie option with a coconut whipped topping instead? There's a lot of great health benefits from coconut, and we'll talk about them in a second, but so what you're really getting is, you might be getting a little higher calorie, but you're gonna get a more flavorful, rich food item that's actually going to aid more in weight loss because you're getting these healthy fats that are gonna help you out to stay satiated. So there's a lot of great qualities that are gonna make you feel better and also know that you're eating an unprocessed item. So right now the pies are cooking. Now we're gonna make the whipped topping. Now I'd wait to make the whipped topping until pretty close to when you're gonna use it. Trust me, it's very simple. Going to be 2 seconds. However, you are going to want to do a couple things. The night before you make this, you want to put the can of coconut milk into the refrigerator. It's going to make everything get a little more solid. The second thing you're going to want to do is put a bowl, the mixing bowl, into the refrigerator or the freezer right before you do it, like 10-15 minutes before, so that bowl is cold as well. I'm going to do a little fun rinse of my whisk because Mama only has 1 whisk. I know. So I'm gonna go get my bowl. So as we're doing this, just I got my bowl in here. I got my can of coconut milk. So I decided to do mine in a metal bowl because obviously that'll keep it pretty cool for a little bit longer. And this is just like this is like the other coconut milk, but so the big key here is that you're going to take, what's gonna happen is when it goes into the cold, it's going to separate the coconut milk, the actual fat of the coconut, from the coconut liquid down below. So what you're gonna wanna do is try to scoop out the thicker coconut that's on top and leave the liquid behind. That's a really, really important part. So we're gonna scrape off just the white part of this. So when you kind of dip your spoon in, you'll be able to see, so I'm getting some, the cream. But as you start to scoop it, you're gonna start to see the liquid starting to kind of pop up. You wanna try to stay away from the liquid as much as possible, so you don't wanna just pour the can into your bowl. So you're scooping it out. So do your best. Now, if you get some of the liquid in there, it's not a bad thing. So another really great thing to use, so I'm using the coconut milk, which means it's just gonna be a little bit liquidier. Is that a word? I don't think that's a word. But if you got coconut cream, which I do have as well, you're going to find that it's going to be a lot thicker. It's going to be harder to whisk, but it will still come out the same. It'll be pretty much the same exact type of thing. So what you're doing when you put it in the refrigerator is you're helping the separation happen. And of course, because it's cool, it's going to be able to whisk a lot better. So the next stage of this, and I'm just going to stick this, so some of it already mixed in, so that's no bueno, but it's okay for this purpose. So I'm going to put the rest of this off to the side because this is just regular coconut that can be used for other dishes. And you don't want to waste anything, right? And plus you might need some of the liquid if you start to find that the coconut is not getting creamy enough. Cool. So all we're going to do now is you're just literally going to whisk the cream. Now, if you have a whisk at home, like those, electronic whiskers, you could do that because the truth is you're going to want to whisk this really, 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 really well to be able to get it to kind of get frothy. So mix your little heart out. And then my biggest recommendation is before you serve it, you want to just put it back in the fridge for a little bit. So I kind of made some earlier, which you guys can see. I made pie earlier. But essentially, trust me, you're going to whisk your little heart out until you start to see it get a little frothy. One thing I would recommend as well, I use monk fruit sweetener. You're going to want to add some sort of sweetener to your whipped cream. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could just be a tiny little bit. So what's great about monk fruit sweetener is it is a sweetener that does not spike insulin levels. So if you're going to use a sweetener, you don't want to use a chemical sweetener that's been made in the laboratory. You want something that's going to kind of benefit the sweetness taste bud, but not kind of overtake it, but also doesn't spike your insulin levels. The whole point of trying to stay away from sugar is trying to help curb that and make your body a more balanced environment. So literally with this, I just throw in just a tiny little dash. I don't even measure it out because you don't need a lot. The coconut itself is already going to taste very sweet. So once I add that in, again, you're just going to whisk. And if you whisk long enough, which my recommendation is that when you think you're done whisking, you're going to whisk some more. Now, I know you're really working for your whipped cream on this one, but like I said, it's really good. You're going to enjoy it. All right, so keep whisking on that. I'm going to kind of just show you because I could be here for another hour showing you everything, but what I did is I pre-cooked everything that you saw today. I cooked it earlier, so while that's cooking in the oven, I thought I would just show you the end result of what we did today. So here is the pumpkin pie. All right, so you can see that, I actually left the pie crust in for a little longer than 10 minutes. It was like 11 minutes instead of 10. And because it continued to cook on the outside, that's why you get a little browner here. But it should be A-okay underneath. But literally at 50 minutes, I just pulled it out of the oven. One way that you can check it is take a fork and just slide a fork in and pull the fork back out. If you get any residue on your fork, then you want to put it back in and let it cook a little bit longer. But if you stick it in, pull it out, and there's nothing on the fork, then you've cooked it enough. Also, when you pull it out, it's going to be kind of it's going to look a little bigger, but as it settles, it's going to settle down and look a little flatter. So this is the end result of what we just made. And I thought I'd also show you the little cupcakes. So as you can see, here, I'll pull out one of the oat ones. So as you can see, they cooked, and you can just pull it out, and it's like a regular muffin on a plate. So let me just use this as an example. So I'm going to grab my coconut cream. So after you've made your whipped cream, you're just going to take your spoon. I put mine in a jar from earlier. And literally we're just going to scoop out a little bit. See how it has like a whipped cream. Put it on top. Because let's be honest, it's awesome. And voila, you have your dessert for Thanksgiving. And it's all dairy-free, gluten-free, on the right track. Now I get to taste it because I've been looking at it the whole time. Now for the true test, if it's good. I hope so. It'd suck if it wasn't. It's good. So, just know that at any point, if you know you like something a little sweeter, You want your whipped cream to be a little sweeter. You want your pie filling to be a little sweeter. Just add a little bit more of your sweetener, okay? So the eggs are gonna hold everything together. So if you have, if you do, a little bit more honey, a little bit more honey, that would be the one that, or you can even add some of your monk fruit sweetener. So just know that you can sweeten things up as you want. But for the most part, keeping it pretty simple and then letting the add-ons, the whipped cream and all that on the top, that'll be the kind of the game changer. You guys, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I know this is always a hard time of year, and with COVID and everything, it makes it even harder. But, going into your Thanksgiving food, don't feel guilty about enjoying yourself, especially if you get the honor of being around family. Don't let food dictate and make it control your entire good or bad day, okay? If you can get yourself back on track the next day, you're good, all right? One day isn't going to ruin everything. It never does. It's always when it's 4 or 5 or 6 days. Then you might start to see a little bit of a change. So enjoy yourself on Thanksgiving. Have your pumpkin pie, have your food, and then get up, get yourself back on track the next day, and just be appreciative, right? That we have the opportunity to do that in our culture. To just kind of gorge and then get back on track and do what we got to do. If you have questions about any of that, though, please reach out to me. I'm a health coach. I help my clients guide towards, happy, healthy lifestyles. And the happy is the most important part. The healthy is always bound to happen. But the happy, that's the one you got to work on. Because being happy with yourself, being happy with where you are, that's important first to be able to be happy with wherever you're going. Okay? Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your pumpkin pie. I'm sending out so many wishes to you guys. I'm looking forward to the month of December and new fun stuff that are coming out there. Check out my website for my Black Friday special that's dropping tomorrow. Tomorrow it's dropping on Thursday instead of Friday. But, I wish you guys a very healthy, happy Thanksgiving. And I'll see you next time, next live.